And you're probably going to have
Meeting will come to order, please stand. I pledge allegiance
the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you please remain standing for a moment of silence? Thank you very much. So that's the picture.
So that's the
The microphones are off, the video is on.
still okay with. Still okay.
In executive session, the committee agreed to extend the superintendent's contract, finance director's contract, I believe also the assistant superintendent. Let's see. We also, there was a personnel matter. We went along with the recommendation of the superintendent. Yeah, well, all right, we'll take up the extension of the superintendent's contract. We'll start with, we'll have a motion by Mrs. Picard, second by Mr. Iannetta. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item is extension of the finance director's contract.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Cataldi, I think.
Yeah.
And also second by Mrs. Picard. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. We also need a motion on the assistant superintendent extension.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Donald Talby, seconded by Ron Iannetta. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. And also we have Sharon Corsi's contract. They extended that contract and adjusted it. We need a motion? Moved by Mr. Picard, seconded by Mr. Iannetta. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Okay.
Well, this is a very happy occasion. We are here this evening to honor Mr. Morrison. He's our band director at the high school. He was a recipient of the Golden Apple Award, but before he comes up and receives his citation from the school committee, I would like to read the letter that the students submitted on behalf of his nomination for that award. Throughout my 4 years at North Providence, I have never met a teacher that cares so much about the wellness of their students. He is one of the nicest, selfless people I know. Mr. Morrison is a role model to so many of the music students at North Providence High School. He is so dedicated to these kids, it's heartwarming. Last April, he took over 60 students on a field trip to Philadelphia. It was one of the best experiences of my life. I have been given the most amazing opportunities thanks to Mr. Morrison, such as performing at the Providence Bruins games and events across the town of North Providence. Due to some of the cost of these events, Mr. Morrison, on numerous occasions, has paid for a child to participate using money out of his own pocket. This April, we will be heading to Toronto, Canada for the Heritage Musical Festival. Last year, we returned with a bronze medal in the Most Spirited Award. We were all so excited. Mr. Morrison reminded us many times that we were not there for the awards, but for the experience and to enjoy ourselves. And he was right. I hope that one day I will be as wise and as great a person as he is. He is truly on the greatest and most influential people in my life, and he doesn't even know it. Mr. Morrison deserves the Golden Apple Award. because it's time that he gets recognized for all that he does. The North Providence Music Department would be nothing without such an incredible leader.
I think that's a wonderful tribute to Stephen. Delaney Fenton is here. Would you please stand, please? She's the lady that nominated him. When you get nominated by your students, I mean, that's really something. Sometimes it's by your peers or, you know, people you teach with, but the kids that you teach, that's a great tribute, Stephen. You deserve it. I have a citation from the school committee here. Be it known that the North Providence School Committee hereby offers a sincere congratulations to Stephen Morrison in recognition of the recipient of the Hasbro WJR Golden Apple Award. The entire membership extends its very best wishes to you, Steve, on this memorable occasion and expresses the hope for continued good fortune on the 17th day of December 2014. Congratulations, Steve, and best wishes to you, and we hope you stay here forever.
And I will say that the concert last night at North Providence High School with the chorus and the band was outstanding, Mr. Morrison.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
It was awesome.
And one more matter was taken up in executive session. We need a motion to that we resolve the grievance that was out of the session. We need a motion on that.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Ionetta and second by
Second.
Mr. Cataldi. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Okay, what we'll do is we'll do a roll call vote on that. Mr. De Silva?
What I said is, during the hearing grievance, I was taking the notes. We don't have anyone here to do that. Do you hear any opposition?
I asked for clarification.
Okay, so no one voted no, so.
Right.
I didn't vote.
She
Oh, you didn't vote?
didn't vote at all, so why don't we do a roll call? That way there'll be no problem at all.
So so what we're voting on is what we just discussed in,
Right,
executive session, is the
Correct.
superintendent's resolution.
right.
Oh, yes.
Nay.
Yes?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, the resolution passes on a vote of 6-1, one nay.
And we're not voting on that contract. Hold on, wait.
Yes, sir.
This evening, I've asked Assistant Superintendent Lisa Jakes to give us an overview of our science kneecap scores. As As we all know, we put a large investment, thanks to the hard work of the school committee, the central office team, and through the budget process, we recognized that we needed to improve our science scores overall. So as you all know, we are in the busy implementing those changes in our district. It doesn't reflect here in our test scores because of the test being last May, although some gains were made at our elementaries that Lisa will highlight.
Thank you. Good evening. Yesterday afternoon, the state of Rhode Island had released our statewide results as part of the final lift of the embargo. And so we are here to kind of quickly go through a few highlights, one of why we took so long to get here, and then a general overview of where we are and where we're going from here. So generally, our results come out much earlier in the school year. And when the results came out early this fall, there was some discrepancies found in many of the districts. So to respond to that, RIDE took a closer look and did a thorough review with measured progress and the testing group, and tried to look at the results a little more closely, and then did some deep dives into some individual student data in different districts. But they did find, however, that the assessments were in fact scored correctly. So if you did see some articles yesterday on the press release, there is a feeling that the assessments were in fact scored correctly and accurately. And when they did a full analysis of all of the assessments, they felt that there were still a strong correlation between how students did, even though there was some concerns on the inquiry piece, but that overall the student performance on an item and the student's performance on the entire test still remained as a correlation, that there was still that positive correlation between those items. So when they took a closer look at the results, because there were some concerns specifically in the 4th and 8th grade, that then they looked at the wording. Some of the wording was possibly a little confusing. There were some problems that actually had some hints that were confusing to students, and a lot of students responded to those hints more so than to the question. That there also was some possibility that the scoring criteria was a little too narrow or stringent. So in order to get a point, some of the requirements to get that point were a little more strict than was possible compared to other previous tests in the past. And so from that information that they had, they took back that they were going to, RIDE will use that information to help guide future tests, make sure that their items are aligned the way they want to, and really take a close look at those benchmark papers and the scoring criteria to really take a good look at those pieces between getting 0 points and 1 point, because that could possibly change a student's score. But what RIDE is recommending to us as we start looking at the NECAP science scores for this year, as you know, we will not be doing NECAP any further in ELA and math, and we are moving over to PARC, but science will continue and will be again administered this spring. But looking at this year's scores, they want us to notice that their recommendation are that if they were to change any scores, rescore student scores, we may have a couple kids that may go up a bit, a couple kids that will go down a bit, and that overall, statistically speaking, it would not significantly change state or district-wide scores. And to remind us that although ELA and math are used for school accountability, like we were just commended last week at the State House for the high school, that the NECAP scores for science do not count towards those ratings. So that does not make them any less important, but to keep that in mind that it does not affect our accountability. But that we should continue to use them as guidance to review our curriculum and our resources and our instruction to make sure that we're still on track. But when we get into looking at individual student data, they have cautioned us at the 4th and 8th grade level to just be careful on the inquiry sections of the assessment because of those discrepancies. So that we should also be looking at other related data, that we shouldn't just be looking at NECAP scores, but you want to look at all of the other testing that the student does and their coursework and their grades before making any decisions that could affect a student's pathway. This year, when the scores do come home, The results are actually en route. We are under the impression that they will be arriving here in Rhode Island tomorrow. So I don't know if they will get out by Friday, and since we are not in session next week, other schools are in session on Monday and Tuesday. We are not, so I'm not sure if we will get them out on Friday, if we will have them in hand or not, but they will then, if not, be sent out first thing when we get back from vacation. But a letter is going to explain some of this information to parents, to accompany the scores, to explain, to take a look at the scores, but to also use caution when looking at these inquiry task portion. So, how did we do? So, we actually overall, in general, showed gains in most of our schools. Greystone, Maryville, Stephenolly, and Wayland all showed improvement. So our scores all went up in those elementary schools. Centerdale remained constant. Their scores held steady. And McGuire did have a slight decrease, but they do still remain at the state average. So although that score did slip a bit, we remain at the state average for McGuire. So overall, district-wide here in North Providence, our elementary schools are at 48%, which is up from 38% last year. So in general, on an average, our elementary scores did go up. Rhode Island is at 41% proficient or higher, and that stayed the same from last year. So the state as a whole has stayed at 41% at that level, and we are at 48. So our elementary schools as a group are performing above the state average. At the middle school, Birchwood had a slight improvement at Birchwood. Ritchie, we did see a decrease in percent proficiency, which again was a trend with the state. There was a significant decrease statewide at the 8th grade level. Our district-wide data is showing that on average right now, our middle school is at 7% proficient. We were at 10% last year. The state average is 23% proficient or higher, which is also down from 30% last year. So they went from 30% to 23% as well at the middle school level. And at the high school, we continue to show improvement as well. North Providence High School is at 30% proficient or higher, which is up from 27% last year. Rhode Island is at 30% proficient or higher, so we are exactly at the state average at the high school now as well. We were behind last year. They stayed the same. So last year they were also at 30. And so we moved up 3 points and they remained the same. So although we recognized last year as well that there were some concerns with the science scores, one in general, and also at the elementary and middle school level, we did contract with a consultant, and there has been a lot of professional development that started last year and has continued this year. So we've used our Title II monies to look at professional development and looking at resources. So with the elementary last year, we started some professional development at the elementary level mid-year, and then as the school year went on, we also then extended that to the middle school level. So that continues. In addition, the wonderful school committee, the mayor, and the town council with our budget expansion and increasing our resources there, we have implemented a host of resources that we are hoping to see some dividends pay out this year. So we have our science kits that are K-8 with all of those resources, training on science notebooks and all the related PD. They're doing embedded PD, they're getting trained on kits. So that is continuing throughout this year. At the middle school, we purchased computer mobile labs. So every science teacher at the middle school has a computer lab, and they're using the digital textbook, they're using the Discovery Ed, and able to use those resources to also supplement the digital resources that come along with the science kits. And we also have Discovery Ed K-12. We've been working on our new curriculum with our consultant as well, and so they're implementing that. We have 2 kits per grade level this year. They're being trained in the 3rd this coming year, and next year we will have that fully extended out for the following year. We also purchased some microscopes for the middle school. They had some antiquated equipment there. And we are finalizing actually a grant as we speak. That's due on Friday. We've been working hard to also focus on the literacy strategies in the content area. What we found in looking at the data along with RIDE was that not only is the science PCAP test a test about science, but there is an extensive amount of reading and really digesting that text at a much higher level. And so we are also looking for, this grant will hopefully help us provide some additional funding to provide PD around close reading strategies and helping to digest that complex text at that level in the content area. So that is where we are. We're hoping to move forward, and we're hoping to see good things as we go through the school year. The teachers have been working very hard. The kids are really responding to the kits, and the teachers are already saying that they can just see that the level of rigor and the excitement out there with the kids has just been tremendous. So we thank you for providing all of those resources to us. Yes.
Lisa, I don't think anyone's particularly overjoyed about the middle school scores,
Correct.
but I would have to say, based on what you're showing us this evening, I would hope there's a dramatic improvement in scores.
We are hoping the same. We are putting all of our resources into science and really focusing on that. The professional development continues. Like I said, the teachers are working hard. We're seeing a lot of good things, so we can hope that it's going to be improved, and that's our goal.
Okay, in other words, we're hoping that it happens, and we want it to happen.
I hope I'll be back here next year and have better news for us all, yes. But overall, I mean, in general though, as a district overall, we did see improvement. Overall, we had a couple looks at the middle school level, little blips, but again, statewide, that was also the case. And so although the scores are low, they're hopefully moving all in the right direction.
Okay, let's see. And then, Gina.
So my question is, I hope we're not becoming victims of bait and switch. By that I mean, put all of this resources, so we have this test, a kneecap test, and you know, it's a small window, it's a 3 or 4 day event, and that broad brush now paints our schools with these numbers. Yeah, we spend all of this time. So bait and switch is, how do we know that all the things we're doing here is now going to be reflected in kneecap again next year? Because I think they're like a cottage industry, a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, as long as our test scores are bad and everyone else's test scores are bad, kneecap is great because you can never meet the goal, and that keeps them in business. So what I'm saying is that I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in this 3-day exam, which last year was in a lot of scrutiny because I'm sure there were students who confused the kneecap, ELA, and math graduation requirements with kneecap science, hence lack of effort, or this doesn't count, why do I care? And the bait and switch is simply that we spend resources, curriculum, consultants, and then the test comes out that it's skewed a certain way, and by Ride's own admission, well, maybe we put too much emphasis on hits and not the question. Yeah, and it seems like we're always chasing this dog that's running around the room. We can never grab its tail.
I think that's a very interesting.
I don't know if that was in the form of the question.
I was going to say, there was a question there, but
I know somebody saw it because I see the little blue light, but that's just how I feel. Now, listen, I've been teaching school for 35 years, and so these are some of my classroom teacher concerns. Because for 3 days, you run ragged making a test, and then the public comes out and says, well, look at those scores. These schools are no good, and what's the school committee going to do? Well, let me personally, I guess I'm going to go teach all the classes. I just think it's a bait and switch, and I hate to see us keep chasing it. I hope we could somehow find other ways to measure our progress and measure what's going on in our schools, and the effectiveness of teachers, and the effectiveness of kids learning by one test, and the same apart.
I think those are points well taken, I really do.
And some of the piece of the science kits, and certainly moving forward, looking at our comprehensive assessment system, there are other common assessments and common tasks and other criteria that we're able to look at some internal data to be able to see that the kids are doing well, like the science notebooks as well, just other pieces to the resources that internally we can look at how they're doing with science in addition to NECAP.
Correctly, it's fourth grade and eighth grade, correct?
Correct, so that test is on a span, so it is not the fourth grade or the eighth grade, it's on a span
So
of
if
standards.
I'm particularly maybe I'm a student who's in a school that, you know, it's a lot of language arts, or I'm having difficulties with language arts, with vocabulary, and my first grade and my second grade and my third grade experience was difficulty with that, and I'm catching up and you know, we're doing it. And then I get to fourth grade and I'm still behind in my vocabulary. And now I don't do too well in science because, as we all know, the biggest predictor of test taking success is your vocabulary. If you don't have vocabulary, then it's hard to do things like science or do science experiments or do hypotheses and all these other things if you don't understand the vocabulary. So I think it's a real shame that we categorize our schools based on a 3-day window in one grade.
Listen,
So I think
Yeah.
thank you, Lisa. I think we've put a lot of effort into the science initiatives. I think we've all realized that it's an area that needs to grow, get better, and improve. I also agree with Mr. De Silva that it's a piece of information. It's one piece. So then my question would be, how are we evaluating, measuring the success of the resources that we're putting into place? What are instructional leaders doing to measure the student performance day to day, week by week, month to month, to make sure that we're making the gains that we want to make? Because to the point, I don't want to wait till May to find out that the science programs are not working, or the resource is not what we need, or we have to supplement with something else. So what benchmark, and I use the word assessment not in the test taking way, but for students based on the standards. Now again, NECAP is using the old standards where we know we're moving to the next generation. Science standards, Rhode Island's already adopted them. The other point is, I think sometimes the parents see the scores, they're immediately alert. There's an alert that goes off that says, oh no, Providence, maybe not the place to be if I want my child involved in math and science. I disagree with that because I do think that we are working very hard in that area, that we have some excellent teachers who are using better resources now and have the tools that they need to get better at that. Just to make it clear, our private schools and Catholic schools don't take this assessment. So there's no apples to apples. So you don't know how they're doing. So yes, what our scores are telling us, it's not good enough. I don't think anybody here would say that we're happy with that. Of course we're not. But it is a piece of information. I'd also like to know the comparison for course grades versus scores on like something like a NECAP. So if we have students receiving A's, what are they receiving in science? What's the disproportionality with that data? Because I think that would give us some more information. And again, what is the success criteria of the resources that we're purchasing to make sure that we're measuring for the effectiveness?
thank you very much. Ron?
Lisa, you've listed for us a whole bunch of resources that are now going to become available for our students and our professional staff. In your professional opinion, do you believe we are lacking in any other resources that could be provided for our staff and for our teachers so that next year we don't come back again, and if our scores haven't improved, we can't say, well, we didn't have this and we didn't have that? Do you think this is going to do it for us, or is there anything else there that we can provide our staff and our students with to help them improve their scores?
Well, we can always continue to support them with modeling in the classroom and just instructional practices. And again, that's part of the grant. That's the next phase. Our consultant is in there also working with the teachers on day-to-day instruction. So it's just really working with them on the instructional piece of implementing the tasks and the kits and the different assessments. And we're continuing to do that, but that is part of our contract with the consultant. So this is an ongoing process now. All of these things are in place now, but it is actually scheduled to continue through next year. So we have ongoing PD just to continue to support. And then looking at those assessments that they have, that will be common for each grade level and each course level, and then really looking at that student work and making sure that they're adjusting their instruction to keep bringing those in-house scores up.
So this game plan looks solid and appropriate. And should
I
get
think
us
we're
on
on the right track, and we hope to continue that. And again, I think the big thing is really keeping on with the professional development and supporting the teachers in the classroom and having them to have time to collaborate. So we've started grade level meetings at the middle school and elementary level. And then the department chairs meet as well to continue that work at the high school. So we're on the right track. We also need to address other areas, and the social studies is probably our next resource. So we always need to update, regardless of the scores. James is absolutely correct that the scores are just one piece. We need to address science, whether it's kneecap or what have you. The resources have been stale and needed, some new life breathed into them. So just addressing science regardless of the test and regardless of the scores needed to be done. Our stuff was antiquated. We had no technology. We had no hands-on. The kids were not physically doing science. And so I think we're moving in the right direction, and we need to continue to do that with all of our content area, making sure they have the resources and PD available to improve our craft throughout all of the content area.
Is there anybody that wants to address this topic for the first time? Mr. Palmieri.
I'm gonna speak like a parent that has a concern. And I don't have any kids in the system right now. We hire teachers science teachers, we bring them into the schools, and the scores are 3%. What are they learning? What are the teachers learning in school that we have to get here? And now we have to provide professional development for them to understand how to teach the kids science.
Well,
I'm missing something, because it's unacceptable. It's just, other areas of the state don't have those kinds of scores. Are they doing something different that we're not doing?
we do not have any physical hands-on science inquiry materials anywhere in the district except for what was purchased at the high school out of their individual budget. So yes, in a sense, they were doing other things in the state that we were not. We were literally teaching science out of a textbook. And that's just not how kids are gonna learn science and enjoy science and participate. They need to touch it and feel it. And so they literally have this kit of a million things to do and explorations. And so that's new to teach to a teacher, all of the resources that are involved here. They know the science. It's learning the kit and learning how to do the different activities and investigations. That's what they're getting PD on. They know the science. They've been doing the best they can with the resources they have, and they continue to just want to improve the classroom experience for the kids. And the times have changed. We need the technology. It's just a different platform now that they're doing it in. It's the environment that they're teaching, not the content. They know the content.
And Lisa, if we can recall last month's school committee meeting, we had the young man here and Katie Bowers. That's what he was trying to express to us, that the new resources are really trying to take those abstract concepts and make them real for them.
Is there anyone else that wants to address time? All right. Anyone for the second time? I guess not. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda, be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the financial report as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Picard, second by Ms. Stein. Other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the homeschool request as submitted.
Motion by Ms. Stein, seconded by Mr. Second by Mr. Andriosi. Okay, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Let the record show that Mr. Cataldi voted against that homeschooling matter. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the field trip request as submitted.
Motion by Ms. Stein, seconded by Mr. Palmieri. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted.
The next item is in regards to the 2015-16 school calendar. In your update this week, I have given you information based on a survey that we sent out to faculty and staff and parents. So as a result, we have the calendar before you. So we're asking for a recommendation for the 2015-2016 school calendar as submitted.
We need a motion. Motion by Ms. Stein, second by Mrs. Picard. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
The next item on the agenda, we do have Donna Alcazar. She's here to answer any questions, but the The motion is to be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the North Providence Special Education Local Advisory Committee membership form as submitted.
Motion by Ms. Picard, seconded by Ms. Iannetta. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion.
As you know, I sit on the local advisory council, supporting this group, the school committee, and I want to thank Mrs. Alcazar for her work as well with Dr. Carson. As you know, we had a hard time putting the LAC back together. It took a while, and Dr. Carson and both John Alcazar have been very, very influential in making sure that that happened. So the meetings had well attendance, consistent, getting better. We're looking at ways to get even more people to attend those events. I want to thank them for their time.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the health and wellness policy as submitted second reading. No vote.
Second read.
We're not voting on it, all right? Next item.
As you recall, last month, we proposed a new grading policy, and at that meeting, Mrs. Picard raised some good questions that we asked Lisa Jakes to go back to the grading committee, and I see some members of the grading committee here this evening, so thank you for being with us, to review that policy again and clean up some of the language. So we have it in, before you again this evening with the revisions that you had asked us to take a look at.
Question?
So thank you for the revisions. I think a lot of what I had brought up last time was addressed. I just have a couple of things that I want to bring up for the during the second read. During the portion that talks about grade reporting, which is more of a practice, not the policy. So
It's on the practices.
yes, it's under the grading practices. So the policy I thought looked pretty good. It was strengthened, and I don't have any concerns with that. It was the grading practices. It was more around, again, around the clarity. So it says under, I want to paragraph that some of you are following along. It discusses the fact that within 2 weeks, possibly longer, for major projects, that the grades will be reported. It's that paragraph right after the numerical bullet. Students that meet the reassessment criteria may be reassessed within 2 weeks. But even before that, it talks about before missing assignments, talks about the feedback. So we say in one paragraph that we're going to give immediate feedback to students so they can make improvements. So I wasn't sure if that meant that the grade would be reported within 2 weeks, but the kids would get immediate feedback, just the clarity around that. Because as a child, you need feedback before 2 weeks.
I can certainly put that, that's the recording into.
Like uploading in Skype.
Right, so
Okay.
the recording versus the.
But the child would have access to the grade before it went up on the Skype. And then the other one was the missing assignment. And I think this is more of a Skyward glitch than anything else. So I know that, and maybe it's about the clarity around the purpose behind a missing assignment. So if I'm out sick and I miss an assignment and it goes in as a 0, it affects the child's average, as you know. You go from, if you have a 98, you go to a 77. However, depending on the percentage, no, that's even if it's just 10%, it doesn't matter the percentage. And I had this conversation with Melinda, but if I'm out sick and it goes in it's not graded, it does not affect my average. So I think there needs to be just some clarity around, I mean, if I missed it because I just didn't feel like handing it in, sure, throw out the 0. But if I missed it because I was in school, just the clarity, because it's a game changer, as you all know, that I believe that the 0 is something that we should not use. But my own soapbox, I just would like the clarity around that language.
Any other comments?
Yeah,
Just on this over.
so 2 questions. One, okay, so this missing assignment piece, if someone's absent, the teacher doesn't have to grade at all, just skip that grade, is what we're saying. Yeah, and these grading practices are gonna be voted on by the school committee next month?
No, just the policy.
Thank you, because I'm wondering why we're codifying so many practices, and why we're not leaving that to the teaching professionals.
Well, certain things we want to make sure that we're all on the same page
In terms of,
of just whether people are allowing retakes or not allowing retakes, how many days they're getting into the grade book, how many days they're not consistent. Just to have that consistency around basic.
so I'll give you an example. I had a student who went to Dominican Republic last week, and they asked for work, and I said, have a nice vacation. If you're choosing to take a vacation during my school year, I'm not going to choose to chase you for work, which I know you're not going to do. And so that whole week of school that he missed last week is just, I'm not dealing with what he missed. Gee, would I be falling into trouble here?
Well, that would then overlap with our attendance policy and whether we want to look at that piece, if it's an excuse or unexcused absence right
His mother
now.
took him out of school, she took him to Dominican Republic. I don't think we're gonna send Tom Fozzie, who does it in Cranston, I don't know if it does or not. Down to Dominican Republic,
So
so
if
he
it
get back
depends
there.
on why they're out, if it's an unexcused
I
absence.
would think going to the Dominican Republic is not excused.
Well, we've had a few cases.
I've had parents who take their kids to Disney World for the fourth week of school, and we used to prepare for kneecap. Oh, sure, go ahead.
But that actually falls into our attendance policy and makeup work, and so that students have a certain amount of time to make up work from absences.
And my question is, if I want him to do that, but I not, according to this, have to do that.
No,
High school's a different animal.
currently right now, teachers are not, they are using the not graded, if a child missing an assignment and they have chosen not to let that child make it up, they do that currently.
Good, I hope that we could continue that practice.
In our attendance policy, it does talk about, grades possibly being affected or decreased or what have you based on unexcused absences. So that piece is not addressed in here, that's addressed in the attendance
So in a month from now, we're gonna be voting, next month, we're gonna be voting on the grading policy.
policy.
The practices are there for guidelines
Consistency,
to
district-
follow, consistent, okay, that sounds good, thank you.
Any further questions, anyone? Yeah, next item, please.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the local 2435 negotiations contract wage reopener as submitted.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Nanetta, seconded by Ms. Picard. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the bids as submitted.
Yes, we have pest control, so moved.
Motion by Ms. Picard, seconded by Mr. Nanetta. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, ayes have it, so voted. Next item, please.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the resignations as submitted.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Picard, seconded by Mr. Nanetta. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, ayes have it, so voted.
We don't have any retirements this evening. Next item is be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the leave of absences as submitted.
Motion by Ms. Picard, second by Mr. Nanetta. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, ayes.
We do not have any layoffs or non-renewals this evening. Next item is be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the appointments as submitted.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Nanetta, seconded by Ms. Picard. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, ayes have it, so voted. Next item, please.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the terminations as submitted.
We need a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Picard. Who seconded that? Mr. Cataldo. Okay. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, ayes have it, so voted. Next item, please.
Okay, we do not have any use of property this evening.
Oh, that's unusual.
That's very unusual. Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the list of bills as submitted.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nanetta,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Josie. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, ayes have it, so voted.
We don't have any decisions this evening.
Okay.
We gotta go right back to rescissions I skipped over.
Okay.
So Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the rescissions as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Aguilar, seconded by Mr. Ambrosio. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, ayes have it, so ordered.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the fundraisers as submitted.
Okay, is there any other fundraisers? No fundraisers,
Scratch that.
okay.
I'd like to stop them now.
I guess we have approval of minutes. Dina?
Yes, I just want to clarify for the August meeting. Yes. Is it an August stealing? Because it doesn't say executive or regular, it's a special meeting, and it involves people who interviewed and,
Special meeting, open session.
okay. Well, the whole, going into open session for the second half, to the second, you see how it's recorded?
The open session for the next one is November 19th.
No, at the top paragraph of the minutes.
I'm just looking at the summary.
The second portion says, carry into open session, we need to top.
It does say open session at 7:40. So I would say it's all open session because it says we met at 7:40, we went into open session at 7:40. Carried to recess, it go into executive session at 7:40. So this is an executive session. It says in the next line that we went into executive session and that we did not take out, so you're gonna do both.
Okay, so for the August special meeting, for the August 21st, I want to seal the executive session minutes.
Motion by Mr. Picard, seal meeting, the minutes of that meeting, seconded by. Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, so forward. Next item.
And I also would like to approve the minutes for the special open session meeting for August 21st and November 19th.
Motion by Mr. Aguilar, seconded by Mr. Palmieri. Discussion, all those in favor? Ayes have it, so forward.
And seal the executive session minutes on November 19th.
Motion by Mr. Aguilar, seconded by Mr. Ambrosio. Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, so ordered. Mr. Palmieri?
I just want to go back. I just want to go for the record that if a parent wants to go away on vacation and take their family, I think the teacher should be giving the child work. And I think it's a positive thing when families can get together. We don't know when that family or the parents can get their vacation time. And to punish the kid, he's 6, 7, 8, 10 years old, I mean, as long as he's going away and he's with the parent, well, you're not giving the kid work and he's going to fall behind. I just don't agree with it.
He comes back and I'm not going to cheapen what I do by bringing it to Santo Domingo.
Well, I don't think you want. I think if you just give the kid the work you're going to do, I don't think it's a big problem. They've done it every, anyway.
Let me just say this without arguing, and having done that before and get a whole packet that comes back, but not even.
Now it's their fault.
Maybe you guys should discuss this after. Go ahead.
The only added information I want to say is that with the way things work now, that there are plenty of ways to assess a child's learning without having to get every single assignment. So there are lots of ways we can make sure we can do that. And I agree that no one is punished, but there's ways that we can make sure that happens without having to get every single assignment.
The motion to adjourn is in order. Motion by Mr. Picard, second by Mr. Aguilar. Meeting adjourned at 45.
See? I don't know.